Welcome to the third live stream of the space shooter game on DevVenture with MTK. We'll pick up exactly where we left off last time, and that was here with the mining vessel. We were trying to import the mining vessel into Godot engine, and there was some technical issues, and I thought about it, and I have an idea as to why it's not working the way I expected it. So let's explore that and see if I was right. And if not, we'll have to figure something out. All right, so we've got these three components, and they are Node 3D instead of mesh instances, which confused me for a second. Close to the end, I explored it and I checked it out a little, and I think if you remember correctly, you'll see that it said it only supported for mesh instance. It supported OBJ and FBX and a few other formats, but it didn't support GLB or GLTF, which is the format we exported our models from AssetForge. So let's open up AssetForge again and export our models in a different format and see if that helps using OBJ instead. So let's do that. File, open. This one. Here we go. Edit, unhide everything. All right, so let's see. I can export this, export the model as an OBJ. Yes, don't generate the color map. And then we'll save it as please ignore the lawnmower in the background. Unfortunately, it is just bad timing. Not much I can do. The lawn does have to be mowed, so okay, now let's try and export the other parts. So this. Okay, and then the last one, we'll export everything else. Oh, you know what I've done again? I forgot to enable selection only for the previous two exports. I keep forgetting that. Mining vessel main. So let's just redo those exports. So this one, file, export model, selection only, and then overwrite. Okay, and then export this one, selection only, and that's the barrel. Yes, replace it. Okay, cool. Back to Godot engine. Okay, so let's make a folder here for the OBJ files. Okay. Fine. We'll just add these in like this. And then start again. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll select the node 3D. We'll rename this to be mining vessel and make it of type character body 3D. Change type character body 3D. Should be here. Okay, search. There we go. It has no shape. Yes, exactly. So let's add one. Mesh instance. Okay. So there you go. Now, as you can see, that looks much better. The colors are a lot more accurate compared to how it looks in Asset Forge. And I think I'm happy with that. Now let's do a collision shape. Add a node. Collision shape 3D. Okay, and then the shape can be of type convex polygon. Wonder if I can. No. Fine. We'll just do a bounding box for now. We can do the convex shape later. Okay. Now we just need to change the extremities. Notice how the one tank is further out than the other one. I didn't notice that when we did it in Asset Forge, but again, it's just a proxy, and we don't need to worry too much about or be too pedantic about things like that. We just deal with it later. The plan is to replace this in any case further on in development. So as you can see, I have left the wings out. Again, that's not necessary right now to worry about wings. Because again, it's not a convex hull, right? Not a convex polygon. And including the wings means extending the bounding box further. And that means it's because it's a rectangle. If they shot the mining vessel over here in the gap, it would still register as a hit because it's in line with the wing. that doesn't seem very optimal. So I think let's leave it for now. Just yeah, that's better. Okay. Now that we have the actual mining vessel, we can add the arm and the barrel separately. That means adding the arm. So let's say, what would this be? A static object? A static body or a static animatable. Collision object, physics body, static body, animatable body 3D. Is it animatable though? No, not really. Maybe another character body. Alright, fine. Now let's add a mesh instance. And then move this out like this. Focus on that. Something like this. And further down, oh, I see. Okay, I should have done that. And then change this thing's position to be fully centralized. And then just adjust the position of this instead. Something like that. And something like that. Alright? And then we can just move this back. So what I'm doing is I'm essentially moving the pivot point of the arms by shifting the position of the character body 3D. And what I want to do is I want to move the center point on the x-axis to be exactly where I want the hinge of the arms to be. So that when I do a rotation, then you can kind of see that the arms are doing what I expect them to do, rather than to be rotating around some arbitrary point in the middle, right? Which is not what we want. Let me just change the rotation back to 0. Okay. So I'll move this to be where I want the rotation point to be, the pivot point. And then I can move this to be in line with that, so 0. Oh, okay. A little bit more. Still a little bit more. Something like that. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Now when I rotate it, it does exactly as it's supposed to. Excellent. Let's just undo that one. Okay, cool. And then we can add a collision shape as well. Create a collision shape. It will be another box. So if you noticed, I'm clicking on these parts of the gizmo, right? So that's Y, X, and Z. And what this does is it switches from perspective to orthographic. So as you can see, this is orthographic view. But if I hold down middle mouse and move, it goes back into perspective mode. So I can, for example, look down the axis, like the x-axis, but this is in perspective mode. And that's not necessarily the best if you're trying to line things up perfectly. So if you click on the X here like this, it looks down the x-axis in orthographic view, which lets me make sure that the bounding box is lined up exactly as I need it to be. Okay, I could do the same thing for the z-axis now, and you'll see now I'm looking down the z-axis in orthographic view, and I can do the same thing. I can check it here and make sure that everything is lined up perfectly or close enough to what I need it to be. And then I can do the same here. And then I can do the same here. Make sure everything is good on this, like so. Okay. So this again isn't ideal because as you can see, there's this huge empty space here that will still count as a collision. So for example, if a pirate decides to shoot the mining vessel and a projectile hits this empty space, it will register as a collision. I can, in the scripting, decide whether that actually counts as a hit towards the mining vessel as a whole. But yeah, you can kind of see that a convex shape or a concave shape actually, in this case, would work better. Or using the mesh itself as the collision shape would work the best, right? It will get you perfect collision detection. And then let's add another character body to, not to here, to this. Actually, no, it's to this. We have to add it to this. Another character body. Okay, so we'll call this the grinder arm, and we'll call this the grinder barrel. Okay, we'll do the same thing, which is add mesh instance collision shape. So add a mesh instance, and that will be this one. Okay, let's focus on this. Again, focus on it. You can see the offsets are strange, but okay, we'll just position this as expected and then adjust the mesh instance accordingly. So let's make it exactly where we want it to be. Something like that. Maybe like this. And then look down the z-axis to make sure it's directly in the middle. Okay, perfect. Then we can add the mesh instance to be central on that point. So kind of like this. And then confirm down the the x-axis in orthographic view that it is correct in this direction too. Seems fine. Okay. Now for this collision shape, a box isn't the best. We want to make it closer to a cylinder, which is exactly what we can do. We can actually add a cylinder collision shape. So let's do that. Collision shape, add cylinder, there it is. Okay. Rotation about the z-axis, 90 degrees. Okay. And then just align everything, so like that. And like that. And then drop this down like so. I guess that's the radius. Oh, okay. Just get rid of that so we can see clearly. Make it as snug as we can. Okay, that's close enough. What is this warning? Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. It's just saying the textures from Acid Forge. It's complaining the textures that I used, like this and the scratched metal from here was unable to be exported correctly. That's okay. I can always add on other materials later if I need to. So that's not a big deal. So what we can do is we can just clear that and not worry about it. Okay. Um, does this need to be a character body? No. It can be a no 3D type. No, then it does have to be a... Never mind. It does need to be a character body. If we need the collision shapes, then it does need to be a character body. Okay, cool. That's okay. Alright, so now we've got the ship loaded into Godot engine. And what we can do is we can use another scene. So let's save the scene and open up the player ship and see how we set that scene up. So go to entities, player ship, and see what did we add to the player ship's um, scene to make the player ship actually work as we need it to, right? So be able to fly around and control and everything. Um, I'm just thinking, so I'm quiet now because I'm thinking, right? So let me think out loud, then you can kind of get an idea of what I'm thinking, right? The best way that I can think of to have the player assume all three roles would be if I created separate player ship scenes. One for the mercenary, which is the blue ship, and then another two player scenes, which are basically clones of the player ship, where the the mesh is swapped out, right? And there is logic differences according to the player's mode. So in the case of the player taking on the role of a mining vessel, then it would make more sense to have a separate script assigned to that in that scene rather than having the player behavior.gd. So this would become mercenary behavior or player dash mercenary behavior or something. And then you'd have a separate script called player dash mining behavior or player dash pirate behavior to control mining specific or pirate specific behaviors or mercenary specific behaviors. The the most efficient way to do this would be to have a single script that has conditions to check if has conditions to check, right? Which mode has the player selected, and then it enables or disables certain features and functionality in the script, right? It calls the different functions according to the mode that the player is playing as, and then it loads the model, the ship model, according to the player mode, right? That would be the most efficient way, but it's also a little bit more complicated to think about right now. But Yeah, because I want to add this functionality, right? I wanted to be able to, when you press the fire button for the mining vessel, instead of launching a projectile like a mercenary ship would, or a defender, whatever I called it in the first video. I think I called it a defender. Um, if the defender can fire projectiles, right? So like a plasma bolt or a torpedo or missile or whatever it is, when you press the fire button, then the mining vessel should enable the grinder, right? So when you're holding down the fire button, then the grinder should be rotating. Oh, that's the collision shape. The grinder should be rotating. Why? I think the pivot is weird. Let me just see this mesh instance. Yeah, the pivot is weird. It's all the way down there. Okay, let's fix that quickly in Blender. You guys can get a glimpse of how to fix things like this in Blender if you don't already know. Right, so Blender, why is Blender not on my task bar? Okay, so we importing an obj file. Um, battle. Okay, we'll focus on that object. Go into edit mode. And then again, you can do the, what's it called? Orthographic views. So orthographic X. And then we can say G for grab. Oh, I press A for all, then G to grab it. On the Z axis, move everything down. Make sure that it is perfect on the center. Just holding down shift to make sure that the movements are small and precise for this. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And then it looks even. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Yeah, okay. It's directly in the middle, and it's directly in the middle. Perfect. Now we can export this again as an obj file to the same location. Mining vessel battle obj. Okay. And then if I go back to mining vessel and bring in the barrel again, the barrel and its material. What happened? I think Blender did not export the materials. Where is this material groups? Materials. Um, okay. And the second material. So I'm just recreating the materials. It's actually going to go faster than trying to fix the mistake that I made with Blender. I will figure out exactly what happened and how to prevent it in future. But for now, let's just figure it out. I mean, not fix it, not figure it out. We'll save time to just see. Already done. Um, I do think it's important though to make sure that the material properties are right. So let's change from material metallic, make it rough and slightly metallic, like 0.3, and then roughness, full roughness. Okay, that's fine. And this one, metallic, full metallic, low specular, full roughness, and then we can just change the albedo color to be a little brighter, something like that. Okay, and now we'll just line it up again. Okay, now if I want to turn the grinder barrel, okay, now it's doing this again. Fine, let's just fix that. Yeah, that's close enough. Okay, so that's what I want to do, right? I want to be able to change the behavior so that instead of firing a projectile, it turns the barrel. And if the player is holding down, for example, left click, and then moving the mouse up and down, then it would tilt the grinder arm up and down, but only when holding left mouse button. Otherwise, it does the normal looking behavior, right? So pitch, yaw, and roll, um, as you've seen with the player ship before. If I go back to what is this complaining about? Yeah, it's the same complaints that it doesn't have the textures. So if I go to the test scene of test flight, just to explain what I mean. So if it was the mining vessel, then yaw would be this horizontal rotation. Pitch would be the vertical rotation, right? And the roll would be the axial rotation, right? So forward axial rotation. But if they were holding down left mouse button, then it would move only the arms. So instead of turning up and controlling pitch, you would control the so-called pitch of the grinder arm. And I still need to test, obviously, using the prototyping, whether you even need to have the arm pivot and be able to control the pivot of the grinder arm. And if not, we just disable it, keep it fixed, and control the ship's movements. Right? We can go up to an asteroid, like this one, for example. And then adjust the grinder arm like that while cutting away at the material. And then off you go back to base or whatever, right? So that was the idea. I'm gonna need to think very carefully how I'm gonna do this. Um, because the way that it's set up now, as you can see, right, it's got the ship root, which is the character body 3D, and then everything else is attached to the ship root. So all I need to do is switch out which ship root, in quotes, ship root, is being applied to the player ship, right? So I could, for example, save this as a separate scene called the defender ship, right? Like you've seen over here with the entities. I could rename this scene to be um, the defender ship, right? So that's the pirate ship. Let's do that. We'll call that pirate ship. Pirate ship. Rename rename it Why can't I rename it? Okay. Pirate ship.scene. Then this is the mining vessel, and this one can become the mercenary or defender ship. So let's rename this. Close that. Close that. Now we can rename this. I'm just adjusting the thumbnail so I can see very easily which is which. Something like this. And then also, as you can see, there's a health bar above the pirate ship, but not above the defender ship or the mining vessel. So when I had initially set out to do the game, I wasn't planning on making the player capable of assuming each of the three roles. It was always going to be the player takes on the role of the defender and then protects an NPC mining ship against an NPC pirate ship. But then I thought about it and I was like, it would be really nice if we allow the player to take on the different roles, and then there are different rules associated with those roles. So I changed things around, and I need to accommodate those changes now, right? And so that means I need to add in the health bar to these two scenes, the defender and the mining vessel. And then when the player chooses the specific modes, then I can just switch on or switch off the health bar depending on which ones, right? So if the player is playing as the pirate ship, switch off the health bar for the pirate ship and switch on the health bar for the defender and the mining vessels, and the same for the others, right? So however it's supposed to work. Okay. So there's the health node and the health bar 3D node. So let me just see if I add on under components, health and health bar. .3D. So there's health.scene and under UI, health bar 3D dot scene. Just there it is, super tiny. So let's make it bigger. 100 times bigger. Maybe not 100. 10 times bigger. 50 times bigger. There we go. And then no matter how we rotate the camera, it will always face the camera. Okay. And the really cool part about this is I don't even have to hide it, because if I go towards tests, I go to test flight and confirm that this will actually not impact the player's experience. You can't see the health bar because it's behind the camera. So I don't even have to disable it, which is nice. It's really nice. Let's do the same thing for the mining vessel. Components, add the health scene, and UI, add the health bar 3D. And then we just lift that up. Check the transform. So this is actually a little concerning, because the scale for the health bar on the mining vessel is 1, but for the defender ship it's 50. So that makes me think that the player ship is massive, like really massive, like huge. And how big is the health bar 3D for this thing? Also 1. So if I go to test flight and focus on the player ship, and I go to entities and I add on an enemy ship, yeah, it's about the same size. Why are you so big? Maybe 0.5, and then bring it down. Yeah, that's better. Okay, we're nearing on the end of an hour now. So let's just do some of the administration tasks, right? So a reminder to everyone, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share the link of the live stream as far and wide as you can, right? It really does help. And like the video as well, like I mentioned. Liking lets YouTube know that people are interested in my live streams, and it will then recommend them to other people, and give what are called impressions, so that they will know and then decide whether they are interested in watching it, right? And then also, please do comment underneath the live streams. The engagement that you create with your comments will encourage other people to comment as well, and then that creates a community around our videos, right? The other thing is, don't forget to join the Discord server. Let me just get that open for you guys. So the Discord server over here, the link is in the description to this video. If you join the Discord server, you'll get a notification whenever I publish the live stream or start a live stream. It will automatically tell you that I've done that. And then there's also the DevVenture with MTK memberships, right? So intern, junior, and senior DevVenturers. So let me just make my shout out to, here we go. So excuse me, there we go. So there's Cubes, and he supported me for 5 months already. I really appreciate your support, Cubes. So thank you very much. Um, and then also there are right. So you can do a one-time donation as well, or you could join the memberships, right? So $5 a month as an intern DevVenturer, $10 a month as a junior DevVenturer, $15 a month as a senior DevVenturer, and there are specialized channels, well, actually categories with separate channels for each category, for each membership tier, right? So you've got content exclusive to intern adventurers that ordinary members of the server don't get access to, but then junior and senior do get access to intern. So the higher memberships get access to the lower memberships. And then, so for example, Cubes can access junior and intern adventurer categories. And then there's, the chat and the content and a voice chat for all of the members to have conversations with one another and for me to contact them as well. If I want to talk to them specifically, I can open up that voice chat and only address them, right? So there's that, the Discord server, and I think that's everything. So thank you all for watching and for joining me on this adventure. Thank you for your time, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next one.